Well, Germany and France have said the duties were very bad news and called for a firm response from the European Union. Let's speak now to David Bailey, who is a motor industry expert and the Professor of Business Economics at the Birmingham Business School. Thank you very much for joining us on BBC News. I've outlined those countries who export cars criticising the move. Practically, what will be the impact for those nations?
So essentially, it will push up the costs of their landed vehicles in the US, their exports. It will hit sales and it will hit production. So that's another negative kind of shock for the auto industry in those countries. Remember as well that in Europe and the UK, the industry is already reeling from a slowdown in sales in China, the slow uptake of electric vehicles. Adding this on top is very much a kind of perfect storm for the automotive industry, and it's going to come as a big blow for the European and UK industries in particular.
So you mentioned the UK. What manufacturers do export and how big is that export market to the US?
So in total, about £8 billion worth of cars were sold to the US last year. The US is the number one export market for companies like JLR. Top-end Land Rovers, Range Rovers sell very well there. But we can also think of Mini, and then the kind of luxury end of things in terms of Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin. This has been a huge success for the UK auto industry. And car exports are the UK's number one export good to the US. So, it's a little known fact that we're very good at making these high-end cars and selling them into markets like the US. So it will come as a blow. And in particular, the UK industry is operating well below capacity at the moment. So this is a real challenge for the UK industry. Ideally, the industry wants to avoid these completely through some sort of free trade deal, or the government needs much better support for the industry through its industrial strategy.
Now, President Trump famously said tariff was one of the most beautiful words in the dictionary, and he says this is going to spur growth in the US car industry, create jobs and investment. Do you agree with him that it is going to be a boost in the US?
Yes and no. I think what we will see is some production shift to the US. So, for example, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen have plants there, so they may shift some production to the US to avoid tariffs. However, the US auto industry is very heavily interlinked with international component suppliers in Canada and Mexico. Now, these tariffs will affect component supplies as well. So this is going to push up costs for US production as well. That will mean more expensive cars in the US and lower overall sales. So swings and roundabouts. Overall, I think this is going to be counterproductive.
And do you think they will actually go ahead, or is it President Trump using the threat of them as a bargaining chip?
Who knows? This changes from day to day. He'll probably try and use it as a bargaining chip, but equally he has signalled this consistently and has gone ahead already with 25% tariffs on aluminium and steel. So it's entirely feasible that this does go ahead. I think it'd be interesting to see whether the UK in particular can kind of carve out some deal to avoid it happening.